Okay, so for the month of Elul, we paused really hard and did intense Jewish studies.
Yeah, we did like a deep dive on Jewish studies. So we focused a lot on this series, Basic Judaism for Young People. It's kind of an older book. I'm pretty sure this was published in the 80s. They talk a lot about like the Russian movement to get Jews out of Russia. And I know that was mostly a thing that happened in the 80s.
But, okay, so this is volume 1, Israel, and then volume 2 was the Torah.
Volume 2 was Torah.
3 was God.
3 was God. We got up to 3. We're currently working on 3 still. And now we're going to just be doing it on like Shabbats and a little bit throughout the week as we get back to our regular history
in general,
stuff.
how did you like these?
I liked them quite a bit. They were pretty informative. They were broad-ranging enough that, like, I feel like Zelly got a really good overview of a Jewish studies curriculum. There was history, there was modern culture, there was a lot of stuff about the modern state of Israel. There was a lot of stuff about, like, synagogue life and synagogue service, all the stuff you want your kid to kind of know, to have a background in what they're doing and like in what Jewish life is. And we also went through these two, which
3. These are all part of a set. I think they're all Russell. So
yes.
it starts with
Berman. These are Berman.
Russell.
Oh, Russell.
The author.
No, I see what you're saying.
Berman
yeah.
House is the distributor, who most of our stuff is through Berman House.
So it starts Abraham through the sages, and then it goes Age of Faith and Freedom.
So Abraham through the sages, Age of Faith and Freedom,
and
then the other one is a children's Bible, Lessons from the Torah. So together they kind of give you a nice good timeline.
So we started the Lessons from the Torah. We did this one kind of sporadically off and on, and we are still kind of working our way through it. We finished the Abraham through the Sages and the Age of Faith and Freedom during the month of Elul, and that was a really good, from ancient world up into the modern day, well, up until the modern day being the 1980s.
It's a good time to stop.
Yeah, which is when I was born, so that gives us until now, and then we can pick up from there with, like, history as has happened since the book was done, which we did. But it gives her a really good background in history from a Jewish perspective, and these were really nice as we've been doing all the other world history stuff leading up into that. So we had a really good background on Greece for when we start seeing the Greek involvement with the Jewish people and the Jewish response to Alexander. And she had it made a lot of sense to her when she was like, oh, they came and they turned this temple into a temple of Zeus. I know what it means to have a temple turn into a temple of Zeus because I understand what those temples were like. I understand what this tribute system is that the governments are setting up, because I've seen it happen in other places, and I've understand the history of them doing that.
Which I remember as a kid not having the historical background and just going like, oh, they're just really picking on the Jews. Like, no, this was very systematic and exactly how they treated literally everyone.
Yeah, the thing that made it different was the Jewish response to it.
Right.
Yeah. Where it was like, oh no, instead of saying this culture is so great, we will just let them control us. The Jewish people said, oh no, this culture is so great, but nobody controls us. We're an uncontrollable people. And then you have violence, which is a short history of Judaism. But so then, including those, we got into, not this one, but the other one's out with our current stuff. So we did, Neusner has a series that's Meet Our Sages, Introduction to the Mishnah, and then or learn Mishnah and learn Talmud. We have met our sages with Neusner, and this is a really good introduction to who the sages are and why we as Jewish people listen to them, why we turn to them throughout history, from the ancient times to the modern times, why we still study the Talmud. And then...
Because I remember growing up and you hear things like, well, the sages say, and you're like, who are these people and why do I care?
Yeah.
The Bible says this. The Torah says this.
Yeah, why is this relevant to me? Why are their words considered equivalent to Torah? And Neusner does a really good job at breaking that down. I should actually hold it up again. In that book. And then in Learn Mishnah, he actually goes through different Mishnot and Mishnahot. I'm bad with my pluralizations. But he goes through and then he breaks them down, and he picks short verses, and then he breaks down the thought pattern and how the patterns work and how the writing style works to create patterns so that it helps you memorize what's being said. And on the way, it's teaching you Hebrew because it goes through everything once in the original Hebrew Aramaic, and then it translates it and it shows you how to translate it. So the Neusner has been really fun to do. And Zelly has been picking up. We go light on the Hebrew with it, but we focus heavily on the, diagnosing what's being said. And Z's been picking that up really quickly.
So you were talking to Avrami the other day, since you mentioned history, or picking up the Hebrew, doing the Ivrit lessons.
Yeah.
We definitely struck out yet again on sticking to it on Hebrew lessons.
We did. Yeah, we've been having a hard time making it a regular thing. Even during Elul, it was hard for us to make studying Hebrew a regular thing.
Every day, gotta do it. Because it's hard.
It is, and it's the same with violin. We need to practice the violin every day, but we practice it maybe 3 times a week. Because getting a new thing into our routine is hard.
Especially when you have a kid that wants to just do history and math.
Yeah, because, history and math are fun for her, and so it's like if she could do nothing, if she could make an entire day out of history and math, she will. And as a homeschool parent, it's hard to, when you have a kid who just wants to do those things, it's hard to veer her away from it.
It's like, no, you have to do this thing that you find boring, but you're willing to do 8 hours of listening to really in-depth history.
Yeah, and talking about it and discussing it. And that's the other thing. She's good at talking about it and discussing it and understanding what's going on and why.
All right, so we did a few more things. No, we did this.
We did My Jewish Year, and we did all the holidays that came up during Tishrei and all the important stuff. We left out, I didn't get into the minor holidays. I didn't get into Purim or Hanukkah, but we did Shabbat,
Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchat Torah.
Yeah. Because those were the ones that were coming up. So we kind of just focused on those with this one. And when we did work on Hebrew, we did 2 different Hebrew lessons. One of them's not in here.
And the one that's not in here is actually the better one.
It is. It was, it's a pre-primer.
And it was also from Berman House.
Yeah.
Which just seems to be the easiest place to buy Jewish curriculum from. That or used on eBay.
Yeah.
So, from Berman House, but used on eBay. So that was Elul.
That was Elul.